Hi, welcome to a ClusterFlow tutorial on how to use ClusterFlow once it's installed, how to launch analyses. I am basically going to follow the same process which is on the tutorial on the ClusterFlow website. So you can do this yourself interactively if you go to clusterflow.io and click on the ClusterFlow demo at the bottom here. I'm going to do this for real, and I'm running on a Linux cluster which has Slurm installed. If I look in this directory, you can see that I've got a couple of data sets. They're both RNA-seq and they're both paired end data. They're just gzipped FASTQ files there. I have CF ClusterFlow installed, and I can look at what different analysis pipelines are available to me by doing cf --pipelines. This gives me a list of all the different pipelines. Most of these come with ClusterFlow directly, so they'll be available to you as soon as you install it. I can also see the modules, which are the individual wrappers around specific bioinformatics tools. So if I do ---- modules, you can see these are all the different tools. So I can build a pipeline out of any of these. This is RNA-seq data, like I said. So I want to analyze it with some RNA-specific tools. And probably one of the most popular ones at the moment is called star as an aligner. And you can see there's a pipeline here called FASTQ star. So that means it goes from FASTQ files to star. I can find out more by doing cf help and then the name of either a pipeline or a module. So in this case, I'm going to put the name of the pipeline, and it tells me exactly what the pipeline does, and it shows me the actual pipeline script here. It launches these three tools. That looks great, so I'm happy with that. But I need one more thing before I can run this analysis, and that's I need to tell ClusterFlow which reference genome to use. Again, I can see which genomes are available by doing cf --genomes. I've got lots of different reference genomes set up here, and probably the one I'm going to use here, this is human data, so I'm going to use grch37. Okay, great. So I've got my files, I've got my pipeline, and I've got my reference genome. So now I just need to launch the analysis. I'm going to specify the genome with --genome grch37. Then I name the pipeline that I want to use, which is FASTQ_star. And then I just give it the input files, which in this case can be called by everything which just ends in fastq.gz. Then hit enter, and it tells me that it's running the pipeline. It was over very quickly, but you can see that it automatically recognized that the input files were paired end, and so it's set ---- paired, which you can override that if you want to. I have a regex set up to automatically merge different multiplexed input files, but it didn't find anything which matched that. And so because it's paired end, it ran 2 parallel runs from 4 files with this pipeline. Great. If I look in the directory now, you can see there are a few extra files that ClusterFlow's created. There's a file called that ends in submission.log. And if I look at this, it just tells me what the statistics about the different jobs which were launched to the cluster and what those full commands were. These are pretty complicated because they're running the actual ClusterFlow modules one by one. So you don't need to look into this too much, but if it's good for debugging. You can also see that these run files have been created. These are the files which track the ClusterFlow analyses. If I look at one, you can see it's got a lot of configuration options at the top, the different reference genomes that I specified with my key. You can see that it knows it's paired end, and then it has the actual pipeline itself here, so what the different tools are to be run. And then these are the starting files. So as this pipeline progresses, each module will append its output file names to this file so it can be picked up by subsequent modules. Okay, now I can look at what's actually running currently by doing cf --qstat, or I have that bound to the QS shortcut as well. Now, this tells me about all of the currently running pipelines, which I have from ClusterFlow, and every other job as well. It recognises that I have a pipeline launched here. I launched it with FASTQ star. It tells me how long it's been running, what the working directory is. It has a specific ID here, how many jobs have been submitted, and how many are running, and how many are being completed. Our cluster's pretty busy, so at the moment everything is just sat in the queue. So these are the jobs which are ready to go, trim galore and fastqc. And you can see that they're queued because of resources, and they have that priority currently. You can also see that these jobs are downstream of them, and these are dependent on those jobs and will launch once those are finished. These jobs have been already submitted to the cluster, but they use the inbuilt cluster dependency system to create this network of jobs which are waiting to be run. At the bottom I have a summary. This is useful if you run lots of different ClusterFlow analysis pipelines simultaneously. This is great. I can keep coming back and checking and seeing how this gets on, and this will update over time as the pipeline runs. But if I want to cancel the job, I can copy this ClusterFlow ID here, which is specific to all of the jobs in this pipeline. And I can do cf-qdel and then paste that ID, and it will delete all of the jobs from that pipeline. Now if I look at QS again, it's still taking some time to delete, but you can see some of the jobs have gone, and momentarily all of them have gone. So that's useful. Okay, if the job had run to completion, I would have an email would end up in my inbox which would look something like this, telling me that the pipeline had completed, and if it's green at the top, that means that basically everything has gone well. If ClusterFlow automatically picks up any error messages or notices that any files are missing, then this will be red and it will highlight the errors as you scroll down the email. Instead, it tells me how long it took to run, where it ran, which is useful again when you're running lots of different analyses in parallel. And I can see the different tasks that ran, and it also gives me the exact commands which were run within the modules. So these are the cleaned up ones which are a lot easier to read. This is very useful for record keeping. You can go back and see exactly what was run. And in fact, if I look at the log files which are saved by ClusterFlow, then each tool will have stored the exact version number that it was running with. So it's very good for record keeping. This email is also saved as an HTML file with the analysis results.